Tree appraisal, the professional standards and qualifications. In our last episode, we talked about the why, the foundational philosophy of value, and why context is everything in tree appraisal. Today, we're talking about the who and the how. If you're preparing for the tree and plant appraisal qualification, you aren't just learning how to use a calculator. You're joining a professional lineage. And like any profession, we have a governing body, a Bible of standards, and a rigorous credential that proves you know your stuff. This is the infrastructure of your future career. Let's start with the acronym that defines our field, the CTLA. That stands for the Council of Tree and Landscape Appraisers. Think of the CTLA as the Supreme Court of tree appraisal. It's not just one group. It's a powerhouse coalition of the industry's most influential organizations, including American Society of Consulting Arborists, International Society of Arboriculture, and American Hort, among others. Now, if you've been following the tree industry news over the last few years, you've seen some major headlines regarding the CTLA. There was a significant reformatting of the council recently. Why does that matter to you as a consultant? Because it marks a shift toward greater transparency and a more unified voice. In the past, there was sometimes a black box feel to how these standards were developed. But today, the CTLA is focused on ensuring that when you sign your name to an appraisal report, you aren't just speaking for yourself. You are speaking from a framework that has been vetted by the best minds in arboriculture. Their mission is to ensure that the methods we use are not just popular, but legally defensible and scientifically sound. That brings us to the Bible of our industry, the Guide for Plant Appraisal, specifically the 10th edition. Now, if you've been in the industry for a while, you likely remember the 9th edition. It was the standard for decades, but the 10th edition changed the game in a way that some found controversial at first. It moved us closer to the standards used by real estate appraisers, the people who value the land and the buildings. It introduced more nuanced ways to look at site and contribution. But here's the most important thing to remember about professional standards. They are a living, breathing thing. In early 2024, the CTLA released a public review for the Guide for Plant Appraisal, 10th edition. This is a huge deal. It means the industry is constantly listening, refining, and updating the methodology to close the gap between theoretical value and market reality. As a TPAQ candidate, you need to be a student of these changes. You aren't just memorizing formulas, you're understanding the evolution of the logic. For example, why did the measurement height for calipers change? In 2022, there was a major focus on standardizing exactly where we put that tape. Why? Because a 2-inch difference in where you measure can lead to a $1,000 difference in the final appraisal. If we aren't standardized, we aren't professional. Now let's talk about the credential itself, the TPAQ. If you're aiming for this qualification, you know it's not a participation trophy. The Tree and Plant Appraisal qualification is designed to bridge a very specific gap. It's the gap between knowing how to measure a tree and knowing how to appraise one. In the 2022 and 2023 updates, published by the American Society of Consulting Arboriculture, there's been a massive push to upgrade the TPAQ curriculum. Why? Because the stakes are getting higher. Trees are no longer seen as nice-to-have ornaments. They are being recognized as critical urban infrastructure. When a developer or a municipality looks at a stand of trees today, they aren't just seeing green. They're seeing millions of dollars in stormwater mitigation, carbon sequestration, and property value. The TPAQ doesn't just teach you the math. It teaches you how to be an expert. It focuses on data collection, the scope of work, and most importantly, how to form a reasonable and credible opinion. In the consulting arborist community, we often talk about the RCA, the Registered Consulting Arborist. Think of TPAQ as the specialized engine under the hood of that RCA designation. It's the specific set of tools you use when a client asks, "What's this worth?" Here's a tip for those of you heading into the TPAQ course. The exam isn't just checking if you can do the trunk formula method without a mistake. It's checking if you understand the principles behind it. Can you justify why you chose a specific species rating? Can you explain why the largest commonly available nursery tree is the right starting point for your specific calculation? Professionalism in appraisal means being able to stand behind your numbers under oath. If an attorney asks you, "Why is this tree worth $50,000?" and your answer is, "Because the book said so," you've already lost. Your answer needs to be, "Because based on the CTA standards, the 10th edition methodology, and the local nursery market data, this is the cost to replace the functional benefits provided by this asset." That is the difference between a tree guy and a consulting arborist. So we've covered the council, the CTLA. We've talked about the Bible, the 10th edition guide. And we've looked at the credential, the TPAQ. In our next episode, we're going to get our hands dirty. We're moving out of the classroom and into the field. We're going to talk about defining the assignment, how to set the scope, and most importantly, how to deal with the effective date of an appraisal. This is where the detective work truly begins. Until next time, keep your standards high, your measurements precise, and your opinions credible. You've been listening to the Arborist-podcast. Our goal is to grow our collective knowledge, one domain at a time. If you enjoyed the podcast, please like, share, and subscribe to help us keep this momentum.